Whenever they try, it's atrociously horrible stuff. And Joyo to me seems like a company that just doesn't learn.
What's up, fellow budget tone chasers? Welcome back to one more video here at the channel. And today, of course, I am in good company here of Henning Pauli from HP42. Thank you so much, Henning. It's a
You're
pleasure
welcome.
to have you here. Thank you so much for the time. And guys, the idea for today, I invited Henning to, first of all, have a chat. And especially, of course, we are lovers of affordable gear. But more than that, Henning has a much more experience on, of course, on higher tier instruments. So I'll try to do some connections between his full experience and not only on the affordable, but I'm pretty sure that is going to be quite interesting to everybody who generally watches and is looking for the more budget tier of the things. So Henning, first of all, I need to tell you this. I told you this when I contacted you via email, but I need to reinforce that your work to me is inspiration on format, on the style of the content, on the way that you approach reviews. So I think that you are one of the first YouTube guys which somehow balanced the approach between being focused on the audience, on the same time being really constructive with the brands and providing a really positive feedback when it's good, but also being transparent when things are not good. And I know that probably your videos are maybe one of the first here in the YouTube, maybe 12 years around, if I'm not mistaken, with affordable gear. So I remember seeing first your Joyo reviews. I believe that probably you have reviewed maybe almost the full line of Joyo at that time. And
Back in the day, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so since then, you've been doing lots of work, not only with affordable, but also with more high-tier gear. So first of all, how did you met Joyo? So what happened? Was it your first experience with affordable gear? And how was this collaboration for that time?
Well, when you start a channel, it's a lot easier to get affordable gear because you have a channel with, 200 subscribers, and then if even that, and then obviously Friedman isn't going to send you an amp. Obviously not. Either the higher tier gear is more expensive and they want a return for their investment. But the way that the channel started is I ordered a Harley Benton pedal, actually two, the American Sound and the OCD, whatever it's called, the Ultimate Drive, just for myself, and thought they were really cool. And because I had a studio and I know how to record, I was like, hey, let's make a YouTube video. My channel at that point in time was a private channel for personal videos, and I recorded a couple of, oh look, this is how I constructed that solo. It was never meant to be anything other than that. And so I just recorded these two videos with a student of mine playing, but my voice audio was good, the camera work was good, the editing was decent. I mean, nothing like I do now, but I had worked for an ad agency in California and I knew video editing. I obviously know audio recording because that was my job. So these were decent videos, and then people said, oh, these are great videos. There's nothing like that on this affordable gear. Nobody's doing that. Because of course, anyone who bought back in 2012 a Joyo pedal or Harley Benton pedal, at the most, they recorded them in the room with their phone or put the phone on their amp or whatever. It was very, shitty videos. Nobody put in the time, and there was a gear review scene on YouTube, but they didn't do those pedals. So people liked those videos, and then those two videos, and then I called Thomann and said, can you send me the rest? And then they did. And then I found out that they're actually Joyo pedals, and I contacted Joyo and said, you've got some pedals that Thomann doesn't have. Can you send me those? So that's how the relationship started. And then I don't even know when that happened. I started working with Joyo directly. They paid me as a consultant. They didn't pay me to say anything good about their pedals, because if I didn't like them, I didn't. But they needed help with the naming and a lot of, they needed a lot of help making them compatible with Western culture. Let's put it that way, right? Yeah. Because sometimes they put a name on it and you go like, that, you can't call it that, and you can't put that picture on there. And they needed help with manuals. I mean, the manual for the switches were stupid, right? So I helped them with a lot of stuff. The whole Bantam series, the name Bantam is from me, right?
Wow.
The logo, I mean, they wanted to call it mini amps. And I said, look, if rock and roll guitar players want one word to be avoided, it's mini. Rock and roll is big, it's loud, it's massive, right? We
Yeah.
don't, mini for a tube amp implies not great. Mini is the wrong word. I know they're mini amps, but you have to find a better word for that. And so I did a lot of research and looked into other words for small. And one of the words for small is bantam. There's a bantam chicken. It comes from the chicken. And it's a small chicken. But also in boxing, bantamweight is the lightest weight class. So calling it bantam or bantam amp makes total sense because it's a different word for small, but that's also associated with a strong thing, which is boxing. So you've got something powerful, but that means small. And then all you do is put the P at the end, and all of a sudden you got bantam. So it's
That's
a bantam
awesome.
amp. And it had all of a sudden a lot of meaning. And then they, wanted to, of course, somehow refer to Mesa Boogie and Fender. And in China, and that's not xenophobic to say, that's a fact, IP doesn't count for a lot. So intellectual property isn't a thing. It makes sense culturally that in a communist country, an idea cannot belong to a single person, right? That's the whole idea of communism. Like, everyone owns everything, technically. And so culturally speaking, from where they come from, of course, the country has changed, but culturally speaking, you can't own an idea. So and I've been to China, to them, owning an idea is wrong. Even the whole idea of software piracy, like I could not get it into their heads. I said, why do you have Windows installed on your Macs? It makes no sense. The biggest thing about the Mac is the OS. You use that. And they're like, yeah, but then we can't have the software for free. I'm like, and I got mad. I'm like, it's not free. You're stealing it. And they literally do not understand that concept. So all these companies doing these clones and ripoffs and chipsons and all that, it's extremely difficult to get that out of them because culturally speaking, ideas can't be owned by anyone, right?
Yeah.
So it's easy to say China is the clone country, they're ripping everyone off. If your culture was built on everyone owns everything, then everyone owns the idea that someone had. It benefits everyone. And I said, you can't keep ripping these companies off and cloning their things. So could we hint at what amp sound is done here? Of course, the Zombie doesn't sound like a rectifier, but it's pretty good, right? Yeah. But could we maybe hide it a bit more? Could we be a bit more subtle? So we called it the Blue Jay, and that was a Fender Blues Junior. And in the name, it was pretty much gray, but there were two letters that were white. And those letters were B and J, so Blues Junior. And on the Zombie, the letters that were white instead of gray were MB. And that can hint at it's a Mesa Boogie. And the Marshall 800, small band amp, it's called the Jackman. Well, first of all, the owner is called Jack. So that makes sense. And Jackman, we highlighted JCM. So we did it as subtle as possible so that I could still be okay with preserving the intellectual property, because it was always big for me. And when later they did a whole new series of pedals, there's this whole series with a light around, you know, I don't know what they call the J series or S series, whatever.
R series.
That whole, that whole
series.
LED, that LED, my idea. I never actually got any of them to review. I developed that idea with the LED strip and all that stuff. But at that point, they were like, well, we're going to do the Friedman BE, and we're going to do this and this Wampler pedal. I'm like, guys, you can't keep doing these clones. And then Jack said, yeah, but clones sell. I'm like, I don't care, because at that point I had established relationships with Brian Wampler and Dave Friedman, and they're my friends. And I said, they know that you pay me as a consultant. Now, if you go and you release these pedals, it makes me implicit. It makes me look as if I okayed that. And I'm like, I can't have you copy the pedals of the people that I'm working with. That's bad for my business. That's bad for my reputation. And if you continue to do that, I have to step back and not work with you. And then they made a choice. They said, clones sell better. We'll do that. And then I had to make the choice to step back and not work with them anymore.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's my long story, Joyo story.
Of a Joyo.
The clones amp that we did, the clones amp that could do, you know, with all the circuit changing. That was a brilliant idea from two Italian guys, and I took that with them to Joyo. We developed that together. There's a lot of stuff we did, but I had to step back and say, I have to not be associated with the intellectual property problems.
Yeah, I'll build on that, Henning, because just one curiosity first. My first review in the channel was exactly one R series Joyo pedal that was the Hot Witch, exactly in the moment that it was launched, and more or less the same story which you told here. So there was no good reviews. I had a group of colleagues which were interested on knowing the sound. So I say, guys, I'm going to record something here. I had the camera and so on. I say, I'll do something a little bit more beautiful, even to try, to have fun. And then on the end, this is how actually the channel was born. So we basically came with more or less the same story. And
the
to build on that,
is that go ahead.
No, and to build on that point, I see on the last years a huge loss of space from both MOOER and Joyo. A lot because they are not able to reinvent themselves. If we compare nowadays, maybe the top of mind Chinese affordable companies, maybe like Hotone, or if we talk about Veiltone, or now even the super ultra low tier that could be maybe an m-vave, they are actually not copying anything. They are playing the same, more reasonable game than majority of the world is playing. That is to try to get an affordable solution for something which could cost much more expensive. Of course, having higher volume, sometimes we know that the quality controls are maybe the key point to save some bucks extra here and there. But how do you see this exchange in the market? Probably you've been seeing a huge raising of new affordable multi-effects. Thomann, for the first time, even reviewing on their channel the GP5, and I'm 100% sure that probably the GP50 is going to be one of the products which will be there from Veiltone. I know that you have the chance to reveal the Hotone Ampero line of products. So how do you see this compared to the beginning of this affordable world?
Well, in the beginning, there was Joyo, and they haven't made the jump into here's our own stuff. Whenever they try, it's atrociously horrible stuff. And Joyo to me seems like a company that just doesn't learn. And trust me, I've been there. I've known everyone there. Some people are gone now. But for example, I introduced them to all my friends on YouTube. I got very involved in building a community. Like before we did these Gear Street events or the GitCon event, no guitar YouTuber talked to another guitar YouTuber. It's impossible to think of that now, but they were all separate entities. We waved at each other at NAMM, and that was it. So I brought these people together, and I introduced Joyo to a lot of them. And Joyo was very big on YouTube for a while, as long as I was the key element there. And then when I was gone, instead of saying, oh, we have these friends now, we can get videos done, they completely dropped the ball. And whenever Jack heard, well, video costs money, he was out. So Joyo completely went, after I left, completely went under on YouTube, and nobody covered Joyo anymore, which is stupid because when they were covered, people bought the stuff.
Jam K8 is a huge flop. The latest multi-effects, it's a huge flop. If you enter in Toman, they have 0 evaluations there, and the ones which they have are terrible.
No, nobody talks about it. No, nobody tells him, don't do that. He made a guitar with built-in effects, like 10 different effects, like a complete joke. Terry, when he was there, he was marketing and also product development. Terry reined him in. I did, but now there's nobody saying, don't do this. So I don't have high hopes for Joyo, honestly. Moer was in the beginning, of course, the company that did all the mini pedals, which were all, of course, rip-offs and clones. But then they had some stupid-ass ideas, like the mini wahs and volume pedals. I was in China, I said, nobody's going to step on that. It makes no sense. They had a lot of stupid ideas. And at some point, they made the jump to, we're doing these modelers now. And Moer really found their own way and don't have to do any cloning copying anymore. And I'm pretty sure that most affordable modelers are really a rehoused version of what Moer has. Like the DNA effect from Harley Benton. Harley Benton doesn't do R&D on modelers. That is a cheaper, rehoused, simpler interface version of something that exists. Yeah. The Flammer is very likely a rehoused version. The Donner Arena, I think it's called, they're all the same engine with different knobs and chassis.
Now there's even Aldota, that is a newer, lower tier brand, which to me sounds like DNA effects from Harley Benton, just in a different casing. So
they're all very similar, but Moer managed to get themselves into a higher tier a little bit, price-wise. And Moer managed Hot Tone, same thing. They started with those really, really tiny pedals, which were all, again, OCD, Tube Screamer, all the same bullshit.
Yeah.
And then they managed to really do a great line with the Emperor series and the Mini and the Stomp. All not necessarily the greatest modeling, but again, bang for the buck. And I have a video coming out next week or week after on the Moer M2 at $169, touchscreen interface. I mean, you can't edit anything on it. You have to edit through the app, okay?
Yeah.
And it's made out of plastic, okay? But $169, and it's a pretty solid piece of gear. Battery powered, doesn't have 9 volt. There's pros and cons, but it's $169.
Yeah.
So Moer really has a great line of products, and they stepped away from let's clone shit and let's come into our own way. And I don't know exactly when that happened. When I was in China, I met not Wendy, Coco. Coco owned Moer, and Coco was actually the wife of Jack from Joyo. Joyo and Moer literally was the same owned company.
Oh my God.
So Coco owned Moer because she was bored and said, I want to have my company too. But Moer was then much more successful than Joyo. Whatever happened at Joyo, they didn't learn from anything Moer was doing, which is very weird. It's the same people owning it. And now the head of Moer is Jason. And Jason actually is Jack. Jack is the owner of Joyo. Yeah. Jack's brother-in-law. So Jason married Jack's sister. I had breakfast with the whole family in a big hotel on a Sunday morning. So I know these people. And I heard, and I'm not sure, that maybe they split up, Coco and Jack. I'm not sure about that. I heard a whisper somewhere, and I haven't seen. Coco is not running Moer anymore. Jason is. But for years, I was not in the loop when it comes to anything. Well, I stepped away from Joyo and also with MOER, because MOER in Germany is distributed by Warwick.
Yeah.
And we had a falling out after GitCon. I mean, Warwick were horrible people about that, and they tried to steal that. It went away from me. And they literally said to MOER, I mean, I can only assume, okay, I don't know, but don't work with this guy. We're your distributor. If you want to work with us, don't work with this guy. We don't like him. So MOER for the longest time stayed away from me. And only, I think, a year and a half or 2 years ago, I met Amy from MOER at NAMM.
Yeah.
And my friend Carlos Asensio, who's got some pull because he's got 4 million subscribers. Yeah. Carlos said, hey, work with Henning. And then we started working together. Now Amy's gone, as it always goes. And now there's a Joe. And he asked me to do the M2. But yeah, it's a little bit of, people changing positions. But yeah, there are some companies who, I mean, honestly, who's doing the budget modeling? We're talking up to maybe 500. It's all the Chinese companies. And we have to ask ourselves, how many actual real products are there? Mm-hmm. And how many products are there that are literally the same damn thing, but at a different price point because it's a different interface? Like if you look at DNA effects from Harley Benton,
it's the same.
It's the same engine, but on the interface, for example, you only have blue LEDs.
Yeah.
When you push on the buttons, right? So for me, that's annoying because it doesn't give me that much visual feedback. I would like different colors for the different kind of blocks, but that's how they save the money. You save a bit on each LED color, and then they can make it a little bit cheaper. Because what people need to understand is, the difference between the blue LED and the multicolor LED might just be a couple of cents. But
in the volume?
Well, A, in the volume, and B through the chain. Because it might be a couple of cents in the factory, but then that needs to be imported. And on 5 cents here, 5 cents here, 5 cents there comes customs and tariffs. And then it ends up in the shop. And then you have to have 19% VAT in Germany. And so each cent gets multiplied through the chain. And for someone like MOER, it goes through the distributor. And there's 30% on top of what the distributor pays. The distributor then charges the store. Now, you add the difference between 10 one-color LEDs or 10 multicolor LEDs, might end up to be €2 in manufacturing cost. Well, plus tariffs, plus shipping, plus blah, 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 and then plus 30% on top of that. And then the shop goes times 1.7 and so on. So these €2 all of a sudden might make a difference of €20. I don't know, whatever the number is. Yeah. And so it's easy to understand why they decide to go cheaper on some things, whether it's XLR outs, yes or no. But in the end, my question is, how many models of modeler from China do we actually have? I know the Ampero stuff stands on its own. I know that the MOER stuff stands on its own, but that a lot of the other stuff is built OEM by probably MOER. Donner doesn't make their own modeler. I'm thinking Flamma probably doesn't.
No.
And
Flamma probably shares with MOER.
Yeah, I think there's probably the lower end modeling of MOER put into different chassis. So realistically, comparing them is kind of pointless. All you can compare is really the user interface.
Yeah, on top of those, which you mentioned, maybe UX that belongs to Cherub would be the fourth. But from what comes from the bottom of my mind, I think basically that's it. And
when you look at NUX, they don't look like anyone else.
No, definitely not.
Like the form factor of the pedals, the interface, they clearly have their own thing.
And they are more professionalized as a company itself. I mean, at least this is my experience. So the way that they treat the artist relations, understanding that they needed to have actually artists from the brand. So like having Chappers doing a world tour with New X stuff, for example. So they are able to understand a little bit better, I believe, the business. And doing one link, I'm glad that you mentioned about the M2. And I know that you are a person that has a really, let's say, lucid perception about the full AI thing. And not that dramatic thing that AI is going to substitute us all, we're all going to die. But how are you seeing this new movement, especially for Moer, which now is adding this tone shaping via AI? Have you heard about it? Have you had the chance to test anything?
They hired me specifically to look at the M2 to feature the AI feature. Of course, being me, it's a 40-minute video, 50-minute video where I talk about the whole product first, and then I look at the AI, right? Because otherwise, how I'm going to charge them my full fee if I just look at the AI thing? And honestly, they were dumb because I already did the AI thing and mentioned it when I looked at the i15 Li, whatever the little amp.
Yeah.
But first of all, AI is going to replace us all, and we will all die. That is any prediction from anyone who knows anything is that it is a civilization-destroying threat at the moment. It's a real threat. It's not a joke. It's not conspiracy theory. Anyone who knows anything about AI and what it does and where it will be should be very scared. Now, AI music is not the threat to society.
Yeah, that's my point.
It isn't.
Yeah,
and it is also. I just had Kiana here. If you remember her, she was on my channel very early on, and I think in a year and a half. We just saw each other. We spent, I think, 6 hours just sitting here shooting the shit and talking about stuff. So we talked about AI, and I think AI music has a very different position compared to video and picture AI in society and how it can hurt. But the AI preset generation, my question would be, who the fuck is that for? The question is, do we actually need that? And it's easy for you and me to say, we don't need that shit. I mean, I want to have a Green Day rhythm. I know that we're going to take a JCM 800 and actually only that and leave everything out. We know that, right? But I have a dual major from Berkeley and I've been playing guitar for 35 years. And I've produced endless albums. It's not fair to say nobody needs that, I can make my own presets. So what if you just started playing guitar, right? And I mean, I see it in comments all the time that my assumption about the viewers and their knowledge sometimes is wrong, especially when you talk about load boxes. You know, I mean, the stuff they misunderstand about certain products. And people, for example, on an M2 or something similar, like, well, do I put that into my amp?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, why would you even, and for us, it's such a blatantly obvious, are you stupid? But no, they haven't understood the gear yet because they're not there in their journey as a guitar player. So it's very unfair to say you're an idiot. I mean, it's fun to say you're an idiot, but it's unfair. So I think that AI preset generation is a good idea to get to the point quickly. I want a Steve Vai lead sound, right? And I don't know where to start. Am I taking a clean amp and an overdrive? Am I taking a super high gain amp and no overdrive? What kind of effects does he use? So it gets me a good starting point. And you can also, in addition to having the sound and being able to instantly play, you can also learn from it. The more you do it, the more you could learn, that's the gear they use. That's how you get there. If, and this is the problem, it does it right. Now, what do you think?
Yeah, it doesn't.
No,
it totally doesn't. And it gives you something pasteurized, even for the things which it tries to come closer. So like, it's almost as right as if you were going to trust the name of the factory preset when you open your multi-effects, and you're going to see there, Sweet Child. So say, oh, I'm going to play Sweet Child O' Mine with that. And suddenly you say, oh, what the hell's that? So I mean, completely not matching at all.
I did 3 things in the video. I said Steve Vai lead sound, really easy. I mean, I don't know if you can get very precise in the prompt, but if I have to get very precise in the prompt, like a lead sound with a medium gain tube screamer drive and a tape delay with if I know all that, I might as well put it together myself, right? It's for the people that don't know. So that's the problem. So I said Steve Vai lead sound. And while it's doing the calculation, I said, well, technically, this should be obviously high gain sound, but with a little bit of a fuzz attitude to it, because I know the Synergy Steve Vai module, and that has a very square wave synth quality, almost violin-like. And then you, of course, do a little bit of maybe stereo tap delay, something like this. It gave me decent leads that were all high gain with some effects. Playable, but not very specifically Steve Vai lead. I did the same for Satriani. Now Satriani's sound is again a bit fuzzy, very mid-focused. And what it did right on Satriani was it picked Marshalls. So the bass line that it started with was a JCM, which, okay, I looked up what amps does Satriani play, right? So I think it probably uses written information from the internet to then put together the gear. It doesn't use audio stuff. It doesn't listen to Satriani. And then the question is still, what are the settings? How much of it? Last thing I did was, I mean, that should be easy. Green Day rhythm tone. And that's easy. Billie Joe Armstrong, JCM 800. And that amp only sounds good in one setting. Crank the shit out of it.
Yes.
So that sound had a noise gate at first because it was so gainy that it was ridiculously feedbacking, that it had a fully cranked OCD into a fully cranked JCM into a delay and a reverb. I'm like, that's no rhythm tone should ever have any effects on it. So as with AI, ChatGPT, Suno, or anything, it can do pretty magical things if you have critical thinking ability in this, in the topic that is generated. Now, if I'm asking AI to do a translation into Portuguese, and I just ask it to do that and trust it blindly, we have a problem. I don't have the expertise to see where it went wrong. You do. So exactly, you can save time by asking ChatGPT to translate into Portuguese. You check it, you fix it. I can't. If I'm having something generated by Suno, I can clearly see that chord should be a secondary dominant, and obviously all these guitar sounds, get rid of them. I want the bass to do a bass pedal here and not follow. I want different chords here. These lyrics need to be fixed. So I can take AI music and fix the problems of the AI. And obviously with this more AI preset generation, we can see, oh, good start, but mute, 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 mute. Now we're there. The second sound that it generated for Green Day rhythm, once I turned the effects off, was pretty dead on. But how does it was good. It had the right mids, it was good. But how does the beginner, who this is targeted at,
will diagnose that?
Know that? So it's, with all AI, it's pointless if it's meant to help someone who doesn't know. That's where I stand.
And more than that, I believe that the biggest weakness there, Henning, is that the system somehow doesn't have a way to learn from what you are setting up from your own presets. Because I believe it would be super cool if it would be somehow autonomously learning like which are the solo presets that you like doing most, or which are the types of amps that you use most, and then it could somehow overcook something a little bit more close to what you want. But the
Well, that
way
would
that
be
it is,
that's a great idea. I mean, if it's studied
Yeah.
that for leads, I always use delays. I mean, I would have to call it lead whatever. So lead would have to be in the
Yeah.
name. Then it knows, okay, he's doing a lead, and he always doesn't go past 20% on the mix. Well, if I'm asking it to do a lead, it's not going to do 50% on the mix because it knows I don't like that. That would be super clever, but we're far away from that. There is a product coming out, and I don't remember the company. And now I know it's a Kickstarter campaign. I told them, please send it to me. I'd love to review it, but please send it to me when you're ready. And I actually wrote to them because I said, that's an interesting thing. It's really just a black box. It's a box with 3 foot switches on it. I think purely app controlled, if anything. I don't actually think you have a lot of... I don't think it works like a modeler in the sense of here are the amps and effects and all that stuff. Don't actually know exactly how it works. But with the app, you're feeding it a song or a song section, and you're saying, I want that sound. So it's actually analyzing, it's stem splitting, it has to. And then it's analyzing that guitar sound. And based on the audio, it's giving you a preset that sounds like it. Now, that could be some kind of, I don't know how the tech works. It could be some kind of sampling, and you're playing through an engine that analyzed that audio. Or it could actually be actually analyzing it with AI and then building it with a built-in modeler. I don't know, but that could be a very interesting thing for exactly the people that don't know how to create their own preset. For you and me, I kind of know where I'm going, right? I know if I need a fuzz or not and what kind of fuzz, and don't ever use a fuzz because it sounds like shit. You know, and that for us, it's different. But
I love fuzz.
but for the guy, you know, for the guy that wants to play that Pink Floyd solo, you can say, give me a preset based on this. And that could be an interesting product. It's not out yet, but...
Yeah. Have you heard about this one? Italian one called Sonolab?
There is a bigger one now.
Probably it's the same? Could be.
They contacted me about this thing. Does that play NAMM stuff?
Yes. And now they have something which is called Magic Studio, which does exactly what you mentioned. I tried it. Not there yet. So just wanted to let you know that.
Is that an app?
It's an app that you have, and it sports later the NAMM, which you can load into their gear, and you have theoretically the tone done according to what you want. So you can go there,
because they have a, maybe I'm not supposed to say that, but I didn't sign anything. They have a bigger version of that now. And
good. So
they just wrote to me and said, can we send it to you? And it's already on the way. They agreed to my fee, and I have not done anything with anything NAMM based.
Yeah.
And so it'll be my first look at a product that does NAMM profiling. So it'll be interesting, and it's on the way, and they're from Italy, right?
Yeah. Good. So Henning, I would like to make one last question, which is a little bit different from the most technicalities which you spoke, but I think that you are the key person to be able to give the perspective to everybody.
Okay.
You've been playing on really high-ending stuff. You have the chance to review Friedman stuff. I really envy you for having Bad Cat stuff there. I am basically a Bad Cat addicted. My dream is to have a Lynx 50 here so I could review it, but unfortunately, maybe on the future. And on the same time, you also play lots of affordable stuff. Mm-hmm. Is it still possible to have fun playing affordable stuff after having contact with so much high-ending gear and so much innovative stuff even, yeah?
It depends on the gear. Sometimes there's affordable stuff that is actually hard to play. If you have a Strat for $150 where it just doesn't have the meat in the tone. It's very planky, very metally, like a bare ass beginner guitar. You're trying to record a full song with it, as I do many times. You're not going to get the results that you would get with high-end gear, or even slightly better gear. Something like the m-vave, the M300 MK.
MK300.
Yeah, that's not great sounds. I mean, those are pretty damn cheap, pretty shit sounds. I wouldn't be able to get, let's say, a metal production happening that actually hits and fills. You would hear that, which is why I say, well,
too much noise.
I said, let's try to, no, not noise, but it's just like, it wouldn't have the articulation and the fullness in sound. It doesn't sound like an actual big guitar amp, but it had, maybe it can be used for something else, which is why I went for a more synthy thing and did lots of like stuttery kind of tremolos and used it more for effects. Well, that forces me to get creative with it. Not to hide that it's not great. I never said the thing has great sounds. I said it's pretty damn cheap and the sounds are acceptable for the price, right? But so those things challenge. When it comes to the thing that you're actually holding in your hand, the guitar, people don't want to believe it. And I said for years, guitars don't get better past $2,000. Oh, they get better. I mean, a super high-end guitar, you notice immediately. And we can talk tone wood and whatever. Doesn't matter why. But I have guitars here that are very expensive, where everyone says immediately, even without knowing the price, holy crap, that's a good instrument. Right? They just speak to you that you can do a full step or even a minor third bend and the note just stays. Right? These guitars are easy to create great music with. On the other hand, there's budget gear. When I think of the Harley Benton HP35 hollow body, that thing's $200. I will play that and create with it like I would create with a guitar for $4,000 because it delivers. There's no compromise on that guitar. And there's Harley Bentons that have some compromises. They're still amazing for the money, right? Always amazing for the money. But some of the cheaper stuff can stand out and just like, wow, there's no, it's not holding me back. I can work with this as if it's a very high-end guitar. But yeah, I have super nice gear, and I just am reviewing the new Red 7 Numero Uno one-channel head. And that's a signature amp made for Stefan Haug, Australian blues player. You play 2 notes on clean with that, and you know you're having fun.
Yeah.
That's a sound that a modeler, nothing can give you other than a very high-end amp. And then you have to have the back end too. You have to have the load box and the speaker simulator or the mics, and everything has to come together. But it's not like I'm having less fun with cheaper gear, but I'm definitely more challenged to create the same level of quality when it comes to recording with cheaper gear. You have to maybe work a bit harder. And in the end, it all sounds fine. But if I had a kick-ass tube amp and just record, rhythm parts with it, I know exactly where it stands in the mix. I had that problem with the Moer Prime M2. I worked quite hard to do just muted power chords, right? Chuck, 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 chuck. It all didn't sound right, and especially with modeling gear, it doesn't come out of the mix. It hides in the mix. I did, at one point, I think, I used a Helix years ago, recorded a song with a Helix, all fine, but had somehow trouble to get the guitars out of the mix.
Yeah.
And then I did exactly the same song with an overdrive and a tube amp, because I had to do that overdrive pedal. Same parts, I played the same parts, and bam, mix was there. Super easy. Tim Pierce said the same thing. Modeling gear is fun. Of course, it's gotten a lot better now. But oftentimes, it's all good when you play it by yourself. All good. But then you're recording with it and you start to layer, everything disappears. And you do that with tubes and real gear. It doesn't mash together to just a puddle. So that Moer thing is great for 169. It's not great for recording because those power chords, they will
not cross the mix. Yeah.
Also, it's hard to get out of the mix. But on the other hand, if you're recording a demo, all fine. If you're doing a serious recording, do you expect to get the job done with a piece of gear for $169? You'd be a complete idiot to assume that works.
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks for $170 you can get a professional recording, they're dreaming, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, even if I would go now for a recording and let's assume that I want to have really affordable gear, I would go for the plugins, maybe, instead of carrying.
I mean, that is interestingly a different level. Paradise Guitar Studio, Universal Audio, is going to likely beat even most high-end amps, including mics and everything, because they did it so absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
And also what we got to consider, when you're using a plugin, is your front end and your back end, meaning your analog to digital, your digital to analog, is on a very different level, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have a Moer M2, it's $170, battery powered, little modeler.
Yeah.
What converter do they have in there? I mean, it can only cost $1 or $2, right?
Yeah. Sure.
When you have an interface that costs you $299 from Focusrite, whatever, well, that'll have better converters.
Always.
And the signal that the modeler gets to do its digital numbers with, it's just better numbers. I don't know tech stuff, but I mean, if I'm plugging myself into my Universal Audio, if I'm plugging myself into my Universal Audio X4, it's a €2,000 interface. You hope that when that runs through the software, you're getting good results. And the Paradise Guitar Studio is, for me, absolutely mind-blowing sound. Have you played it?
I didn't still. I am waiting to find some time after my review list is going to go through. And but I had the chance to play on the analog thing. So I was playing the Dream, the Lion, and to be honest, I was really eager to play on the Enigmatic. That I believe that was a huge hype, to be honest, when it was out. But I would still like to take the Paradise Studio. To be honest, I always have some hard time to manage my workflow of recordings because sometimes I'm a lot on the go. So I have, of course, my desktop, let's say, mini studio. But I'm starting also to organize something when I'll be in business trips and stuff for work. So I'm going to take a laptop and that's it. And of course, I'm not intending to take lots of gear to review things. So this is going to be the moment that this thing is going to shine because I'm going to be able to get really high level quality amps on the notebook. So
I mean, the Paradise Guitar Studio, I think, is really the highest quality recording sounds that I've ever heard when it comes to classic sounds, not modern stuff. And I have all the pedals. I think Paradise Guitar Studio sounds better. When it technically
even better than the pedal.
Yes, for a simple reason. On the pedals, you don't have presets. Now you do, and they've got maybe a new version, but nobody goes into the app to freaking look at presets. And then even if you do, let's say on Enigmatic, you then don't have a reverb. because then for that you need a reverb pedal and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Or a compressor in front of it, all these things. In Paradise Guitar Studio, the presets, and this is really where most companies suck donkey balls, good presets. Here, James Santiago, who knows his shit, did the presets. And every single preset in there is a dream come true sound. And they only use what is necessary to get the sound done. So it might be, sometimes you're playing, and you're like, oh my God, what did they use? And did they use an EQ and a reverb and maybe a tremolo? And then you look at it and there's nothing. In the post amps, they always have an EQ. It's always there. Sure. There's an EQ pedal, but it's actually always off. Most of the times it's off. And then you look at it and like, why is the sound so good? And then it's like, well, it's the tremolo from the Dream and it's the reverb from the Dream and that's it. Like, what the? And then sometimes it's got the compressor and a bit of delay, but they only put in what needs to be in there, but it is already all in there. So it's instantly playable, and especially on an Enigmatic. Dumble's tough to set up, i.e. in the jazz setting or the rock setting, and then when you go too high on the gain, it crumbles. The Woodrow is amazing. Those tweet sounds are great, but the tweet can sound like total shit, right? So if you're working with the pedals, you can, even if you know what you're doing, set up shitty sounds. And if you start on Paradise Guitar Studio with the presets, it's a revelation of how good software can sound. And given that this is how good guitar sounds can be now, you'll be shocked how not good some modelers actually sound. Like even Helix Stadium. I mean, I had just spent time with Paradise Guitar Studio and the John Mayer plugin from Neural. Yeah, it's fantastically good. It's almost as good as Paradise Guitar Studio with a lot of presets curated by lots of artists. The John Mayer plugin is phenomenally good. It's really amazing. And then you go to a hardware modeler for over $2,000. And you assume, well, that's obviously the level that you can get, right? And no, I don't think that the hardware modelers, even though they technically should be able to be that good, are as good as some of the software that UA and especially Neural is doing.
Yeah.
So if you want really good sounds that are as good as amps, I don't think modelers are the solution. I think software probably is the solution.
Okay, Henning, thank you so much for your time. And I would like to thank you once again for being with us here. And you know, generally, I tend to do my closing using my traditional sentence, which is, I'll catch you on the next, keep on rocking. But I believe that today...
You write that under every freaking mail. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with this dude?
It's an automatic
I know.
Yeah, but it's
okay.
cool.
Thank you for your time.
But today, I suggest us to do something a little bit different. So let's finish today with animals at the end.
Are you going to put animals at the end?